Hey guys, it's Jim Bounds at Motorhome Rehab Ranch on Patreon, Ranch Hands. All right, so this is the episode where we're going to paint it. Have you figured your stripes out yet? Because you paint the smallest color first. In other words, if you're going to paint your stripes on, what it would do on this thing is you load this color up in the gun and you shoot all along where that stripe's going to be. Shoot all along that stripe. Okay? Then you're going to bag that. In other words, you're going to cover it. Then you're going to paint the rest of it. Now, a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, I'll just paint it white and then I'll paint the stripe on. No. Because then you're going to have a paint line right there. It's going to be like a decal. If you're going to paint it on, now if you're going to put a decal on, then put a decal on. But if you're not, don't paint it on like a decal. Put the stripe on first. Then bag that off, tape it off, and then you paint this coat, this color. All right? Here, a good friend of mine just came by to see me. John, come on over here. John, a number of years ago, we painted his 23-foot coach.
How's it going, man?
All right. You know, we painted your coach. I know.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus. How long did it take? You remember?
Oh, man. A week and a half, something like that.
Oh, bull crap. A week and a half. No,
That's just the part that I remember.
Yeah.
There was a lot being done when I didn't know about.
Yeah, you betcha. He has a 23-foot Birchhaven side bath. He's had it, how long you had that thing?
I've had it for 30 years now.
30 years. 30 years, gentlemen. This is a ranch hand before there was a ranch. John, to let you know, I've told you about my database that I have that was built for Clasco in 1991, a DOS-based Clipper program. Well, this dude here wrote it. He's still here, and the program's still running. I'm telling you, man. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Well, it's really helped me. I've got all the part numbers. I've got the database, so in the future, when people call, I'll have it all.
Remember, they just quit completely anything to do with Windows 7.
Yeah.
No more.
No more. Right?
You're on your own.
Well, I've got it. There's a ranch hand that his job is to take those old programs that the big companies are running and convert them to new computers.
Perfect.
So he's coming over next week or next month or something. So I'll get my DOS program up to where I can look at it on other things. So that's one of the things all as ranch hands. We need to work together here, gentlemen. You know what I mean? But look, on paint, you didn't have any stripes on yours.
I had the original black trim.
Right.
And I had all the stripes that were on that model. It looked like a little Scotty dog up front.
Yeah, right.
And if I remember correctly, I was allowed to do some work along with this job to make it a little bit more affordable. That's back in the day when everybody was able to do your stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about the week, was me and a drill motor and one of those eraser wheels. Oh, on and on and on.
You did that?
Oh, man, talk about tired.
Yeah.
The racer wheel. I wore out 3 eraser wheels.
3? I figured you'd get more than that. Jeez. Well, that's great.
Well, I got good with it.
Well, after a while, you do get good on it, don't you? Well, he got that all off. We painted it. And he used, it was a light tan color, and he used the black body molding as, you know, and the accents of the window, the windows and the wheels and stuff. So it was a two-tone, black and tan.
One of the original raccoons.
Yeah, that's right. It had a raccoon look on there. Went around
raccoon look. I remember I had to fight for that.
Yeah?
Yeah, the first few raccoons you did, the stripes, the big thing was leaning toward the back.
Right.
And I wanted mine from the back leaning towards the front.
Go to the front, right.
And y'all said, no, that would look terrible. That would look terrible, you know. I said, well, look, you know, if you're getting ready to run, are you standing like this? No, man, you're standing like this.
All right.
So the coach looks like it's getting ready to run.
We did that. Well, you're talking about the raccoon, you know, where you black out around the windows. And what we had always done in the beginning, it was straight up and down around the windows.
Right.
Well, then we had this great idea to rake them forward or rake them back.
Yeah, that's.
And then he wanted to rake it forward. So we did a couple of forwards. I did another 23, raked it forward.
Okay.
Makes it look longer too.
Oh yeah.
So the stripes make them do that. But the stripes go on first. Thank you, John.
Yes, I remember about that.
Yeah.
And there's another thing that if you want to really keep your paint job, you want to keep washing, waxing. I've got a wash-wax combination. My coach now, since that time, lives outdoors under the oak trees.
Man.
And the leaves will fall down on it, it'll rain, there'll be a little brown spot on it, a little bit of wash and wax right off because it's been prepared the right way.
Yeah, you gotta have a wax or something in the pores of the paint so the stuff doesn't go into the paint. Just because it looks like it's flat, that surface is porous. So after you get it paint and smoothed off and all that stuff, you got to seal it. Okay, you got to seal it. The original system that we used was a finesse system by 3M. They had 3 different polishes, 3 different levels to fill it in.
Yeah, I remember that. The last thing was buffing
That's
over
right.
and over.
To get all those pores filled.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how long ago did we do your coach?
It's been 9, 10 years.
10
at
years?
least. Yeah.
Man, time flies when you're having fun, isn't it? Yeah, I'm telling you,
Well,
John.
thanks. I'm good.
Thank you,
Glad
John.
to see you again, man.
Thanks.
Take care of yourself now.
All right, man.
And
Thank you.
okay.
But so you're going to paint the stripes. You're going to paint the stripes. You're going to bag the stripe. Okay. Then you're going to paint. When I say paint the stripe, say, well, just paint it. No. You got to paint a layer on there. Paint another layer. Thin layers. Okay. You want to try to use the same paint too, the same pot, the same mix. It would be good to do it the same day. And it would be good to use the same pressure. All those things are very, very important with paint. Read the can. You know, a lot of cans, they have stuff on there, you know, don't eat it or stuff like that. The instructions on an automotive paint can are important. You need to read those things because it's mix rates and things like that and air pressures. So it's really important. And each paint is a little different. In fact, if you're going to have somebody paint it, ask the painter what kind of paint he shoots because that's the paint you want him to shoot. Because if he shoots some other paint, that's going to be an excuse. Oh, well, that's not the paint I use. It didn't work out right. He needs to shoot the paint he knows how to shoot. The right reducers, the right mixes, very, very important. Had a coach come in here one time, and the paint, it looked like leather. It had a ripple finish on it. Remember that 23, that gold one? Had a ripple finish on it. It's shiny, but it wasn't flat. I asked the guy what happened. He said, well, everything's doing fine. They mixed the clear coat wrong, and it fish-eyed the whole motorhome. The whole thing. Actually, it looked so good that he left it. It kind of looked interesting. It was bedliner before we did bedliner, you know? But don't do that. Listen, read the can, get some experience at shooting that paint. And if you're going to use a painter, now see, the labor sucking pig is all the sanding, the prep work, taking it apart, body work and all that. If you do that and you find a guy that's a shooter, there's a difference of a body guy and a shooter. The shooter, maybe a little prima donna, but he knows how to run his gun. Matter of fact, don't go over and grab his gun and look at it. Don't touch it. You know, there's a couple of things you don't do with a painter. You don't touch his gun. Okay? So I would strongly recommend, if you have not painted before, to use a painter, at least to shoot the main colors on, at least to do that. Now, there's two kinds of paint. There's a single stage and there's a base clear. There's also waterborne. I'm sure somewhere down the road in another year or so I'll do another video and talk about waterborne, but basically right now the stuff is poop. Doesn't work. Your new cars have waterborne on it, but they go through a whole process to make it stick. That's one of the problems if you ever get if you have a new car and you get body damage and they go to try to match the paint, it never matches. Well, it won't, because it's a different process. The guys out here that shoot aftermarket don't use the same process the factory does, so you're not going to get the same finish. It's a real problem. In the old days, it was lacquer, enamel. You know, you'd rub the crazy out of it to get it to shine. It didn't have a lot of depth to it. Then they started coming out with the metallics and things like that, and they came up with acrylic paints and different kind of paints. Imron was the first two-part epoxy paint. Can't use that anymore, it'll kill you. They went on and found other base clears. Back in 91, 92 when we started, the Deltron 2000 was the paint we were using. And actually 15 years ago I painted this thing, and about 15 years the clear coat's starting to come off the roof a little bit. You need to paint the roof because ultraviolet it just kills the paint. You say, well, that's a base clear. I don't want to have base clear to do that. Well, here's the problem. A single stage paint, the color, the pigment is on the surface. And when the ultraviolet hits that, it dulls it off. You've seen a dull paint. Well, then you pay some guy to have a high-speed buffer and he rips off all that old paint. Real pretty again. Well, if you don't put the wax, like John was talking about, if you don't seal those pores, it'll go bad again. Because that's the way a single stage paint is. It'll dull up. Now a clear coat paint, the clear coat will dull because the pigments, the clear, in the top surface, it protects the color underneath, the pigment underneath, but the clear coat is affected, and that's what's happened up here. The clear coat's coming off. There's nothing that the ultraviolet won't kill. I mean, you know, it hits all the light spectrum, and it just nothing will stay there. You get it painted, that's now. Next year, you don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so understand when you do paint something that you may have to come back and touch it up. You may have a spot that you did everything right, and it's spot. So what happened? Doesn't matter what happened. It happened. So you may have to fix something. That's why you want to take such great care when you shoot this on, to go all the steps. Prep your paint right. Make sure you got a good bite surface. Make sure that you've primed it. Make sure that you read the paint, the instructions, and you paint it well. A painter will know all of these things, and I don't want to go too much into this, but you're going to put multiple layers. Now, the problem with a big thing like this, now you know how the guys go, they shoot. Well, the problem is you got this whole side to shoot. By the time this is shot, that part down there is dry. Then you get over here and it starts to fisheye, and you start to have it's not glossy. So you've really got to be careful when you're painting something big to get a nice clean finish on it, because it's a big deal. A lot of coats, a lot of thin coats. Thick coats, they'll run. You know, you'll have all kinds. And man, when you see a run on one of these things, it's like a pimple. You just can't get away from it. If you have a truck, it's not a big deal. You don't really notice it. But these coaches have style. It's sleek. And something just going down the side of it, it just looks terrible. Over the years, you know, your eye is the most subjective part of a paint job. It's what your eye looks at. You say, well, that's good or not. That really has less to do with the paint. It depends on what your eye sees. You know, you've seen a car, you come up to it, and it looks mottled, where it looks like it's marbled, where it's got different colors in it. Well, that was because the guy, he shot like this and like that. And you can't do that. You've got to lay the paint out even. And I'll tell you something else. When you're shooting the paint, you shoot it, you got the air, You shoot the paint, let up. Shoot the paint, let up. Because every time you stop, it'll, because you only want to shoot the paint when you're moving it. Make sense? When you're moving. You want to do that on the primer too, because any kind of paint, whenever you shoot it, don't just hold the gun and go like this. Because there, everywhere you change directions will get thick. Think about that. Okay, everywhere that you stop and go the other way, it'll be thick right there. Okay? This is the most important part. Well, we say the primer, well, everything's more important because anywhere that you don't do a good job, you'll see. Okay? But laying the paint out, it can't look like, oh, well, he painted it. You can't see brush strokes. Can't do that. It's got to be nice and smooth and clean. And right now, with everything bagged off, with only your paint surface visible, and you're going across it, that's when you're supposed to get nice, even flow of your paint. If you're using metallics, you got to watch the don't have stripes and streaks, because remember, the metallic shoots out right here. This is where the high mass material is going to go, and it's going to be thinner here and here. So if you went like this and like that, you might have a streak of metallic. Depending on how much air pressure you have, will spread those metallics out. So when you're getting ready to shoot, you want to set the gun up. You want to have a board or something, be able to shoot it on the side. Don't do that. Get on a separate board and get where your flow's out right and your metallics are spread out. Air pressure is critical. Don't use one of those guns with one knob. You got to use two knobs. And you need to use a quality gun. You look at a Harbor Freight gun, you look at a $1,000 gun, you say, well, there's no difference in them things. There's a difference in them things. What it is, I'm not smart enough to know that. But I can tell you now, a good painter will know the difference in a quality gun and a cheap gun the minute he touches it. So it's very, very important to use the best stuff. If you use cheap materials, anywhere you cut corners, it will be noticeable. It will be noticeable. Okay. How much paint? You're going to need, of your color, you're going to need at least 2 gallons. I would even get 3, 2.5, something like that. On your primer, you're going to at least use 1 gallon, maybe 2. You say, well, okay, how much is that? Again, I told you before, it's depending on what week it is. The stuff goes up so fast, it's just scary. It's just plain scary. And different color pigments are cost different prices. So you might want to price different colors before you say not a lot, but I mean a couple $100 is a big deal. Red is the most expensive because of the pigment and the pigments that are in it. All right, well look, at this point, you should be able to leave the room that the thing's in with color on it. You're going to have all the windows bagged off. You're going to have your stripes bagged off. You're going to have your main color on. Say we're going to do base clear. You have your main color on. You're going to have maybe 4 or 5 coats, at least 3. And you let that cure up. Give it a day, 2 days. Now, some paints say that you've got to get the clear on within 72 hours. The first Deltron 2000 was you had to have the clear on it in 72 hours. If you didn't, you had to re-prep the paint. It was like a Daytona pit crew. We had everything ready. We watched the paint. We watched the temperature, what was going on with the weather and everything. And when we started, the painter didn't stop. Okay, so you want to look at that on your paint, on your can, to see what kind of cure time, how much work time you have between one and the other. Okay, so paint your base on, paint your colors on. Then you're going to pull these bags. You're going to pull that off. Now what have you got? You got your base color. You got your secondary color. Okay, you can take maybe 1,000 grit paper and go over it really lightly. What are you doing? You're getting off all the nubbies, all the little pieces. You say we're in open air. It's really not. We live in a fishbowl and there's dust all over the place. And when you shoot it off, you can't help but get dust, even in a paint booth. You're gonna get little dust and things. You're gonna get little stuff on it. So when you pull the paint, when you pull the tape, when you get ready to shoot clear, go over it real lightly just to get those nubbies off. Okay. Some people will wet sand it. It's a lot of work because if you leave any water on there, it's a real problem. If you sand it, blow it off. Light sand, blow it off. I think that's probably the best way to go. Now you're clear. This is the real careful part. Read the can. Real important. Now the clear will run real easy. Real easy. You want to shoot on multiple coats on there. You don't want to get it thick. You want to have it nice and flat, and you want to have a consistent layer. We usually did 5 layers of clear, high solids clear. When I say high solids, you look at a paint job and it looks like it's wet look. That's a high solids clear. It has a lot of solid materials in it that reflects off the light. A cheap clear will be real thin. Okay, it'll just be it'll be glossy, but it won't be high gloss. You want the high gloss, you want to get a high solids clear. Okay. All right. Read the cans again. Shoot the clear. Back off. Leave it alone. Don't touch it. Let it cure, because that is your finish. That is your finish. Let that cure up a little bit. Pull the tape. Pull your tape. Okay? Let it really get cured. I'd give it a week. Look at the can again. Then wash it. Wash it. Washing off all the nubbies. Washing off all the stuff. Okay? Let it dry. And you look at it, oh, it's so beautiful. No, that's not your finish. Now you sand it. Like John said. Now you're ready to sand it. You sand to get it smooth, to get those nubbies off, to get where the paint is smooth enough that light hits it and reflects off, that makes it shiny. That's the part that makes it shiny, that it's slick. The slicker it is, the shinier it is. Okay? Don't worry about putting anything together right now. What you want to do is to get this surface as smooth and shiny as you can. One of the new paints nowadays is using bed liner. Nice thing about shooting epoxy bed liner is you don't have to worry about that finish. You don't have to sand anything. The thing looks like a golf ball anyway. And that's the new look. Everybody thinks that's cool. So, that's style. It just seems like it comes back over and over. It used to be chrome, right? Polished. Then they went to black. Wonder what's next. I don't know. But, I looked at it and said black. Well, that's the basic model, They just paint the rims black. No. That's the high-end model. All right, guys. Well, look. Clear's on. We're going to do another video about putting the coach together, but basically you back up and do everything the way you did the first time. All new, though. Remember, if you put an old part on that new paint, what's it going to do? It says, I'm old. Well, I hope this helps. I know this is not specific, but how can you be specific in about 15 minutes? You know what I mean? Call me. That's what I'm here for. Put me in your loop. If you're going to do paint, let's do it together. All right? That's how you do this. All right, guys, thank you for your time. I hope this helps, and we'll see you again.